James Degale had an absolutely torrid time in the ring against Badou last night. Whether you think he won or lost, whether you thought the fight was a draw, nobody can argue the fact that James Degale had a torrid time. He took a lot of punishment. He had at least one tooth knocked out. He was heavily marked up. He got dropped for the first time in his career. It was by far and away the toughest fight James Degale's ever been in as a professional. And I'm sure tougher than any fight he ever had in the amateurs as well. In light of that performance that Degale put in against Jack, it actually makes George Groves' performance against Badou look a lot better. Because although George Groves lost the fight and that was a close fight, Groves never got bashed up the way James Degale did. Groves never got bullied around the ring the way James Degale did. Was it the fact that Badou wasn't as good against Groves as he was against Degale? Was it the fact that George Groves has more punching power and therefore he was able to gain Jack's respect and keep him honest more so than James Degale was able to? You let me know what you think in the comment section below. Also, Callum Smith is the mandatory for the WBC belt. Badou still holds that. He may well relinquish that belt, and Callum Smith will fight for the vacant belt if he relinquishes it, probably against Anthony Dirrell. How do you see Callum Smith, Anthony Dirrell going? And inevitably, if Callum Smith beats Anthony Dirrell and captures the vacant WBC super middleweight world title, if that scenario unfolds, Eddie Hearn being the promoter of James Degale, well, actually, I'm not sure if Eddie Hearn will be the promoter of James Degale after this fight. He may be. James Degale's relationship with Eddie Hearn seems to be a bit better now, so maybe he'll sign another deal with Eddie Hearn. But as far as I'm aware, this was his last fight with Eddie Hearn. So if there's going to be a new contract, then it'll have to be done now. But assuming James Degale re-signs with Hearn, and let's say Callum Smith beats whoever for the vacant WBC, Hearn will inevitably match James Degale against Callum Smith. Based on that performance against Badou, how do you think James Degale would do against Callum Smith? Look, Callum Smith is not Badou. He may be a bigger puncher than Badou. He may be taller than Badou. He may be just as strong, maybe stronger. We don't know. Maybe not as strong. But styles make fights. Badou, from a technical point of view, is very good. You know, he makes very few mistakes in there from a defensive point of view, Badou. His positioning is good. His punch selection is good. He sticks to the basics, but he does the basics very well. I think he does the basics better than Callum Smith does. Some people may argue that. Callum Smith, I'm sure, has certain advantages over Badou. But how do you think, based on that performance that Degale put in against Jack, how do you think you would do against Callum Smith? Also, as I previously mentioned in the video, George Groves appeared to have an easier time, even though he lost. He appeared to have an easier time with Badou than James Degale did. Is that a reflection of how much George Groves has improved? Is there anything to take from that at all when you're thinking about a rematch between George Groves and James Degale? Who do you think would win that rematch if it happens? That could be another potential there, because George Groves is going to be fighting for the WBA version of the super middleweight world title. So you could have James Degale, the IBF champion, trying to unify with Groves, potentially the WBA super champion, if Groves manages to win that fight against Chudinov. Who would you favor right now, Groves or Degale? And who would you favor, Degale or Callum Smith? Let me know how you feel in the comment section below, people. It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.